This morning, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, reassured the country of U.S. support.
Blinken seemed to speak from the heart as he announced plans to travel through the Middle East in an effort to keep the conflict from spreading. Take a listen.
We know Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinian people or their legitimate aspirations to live with equal measures of security, freedom, justice, opportunity, and dignity. We know Hamas, instead of promoting the well-being of its citizens, rules repressively and dedicates the resources it has to terror tunnels and rockets. We know Hamas didn't commit its heinous acts with the interests of Palestinian people in mind. We know Hamas does not stand for the future that Palestinians want for themselves and for their children.
Blinken also announced the number of U.S. citizens killed by Hamas has risen now to 25.
CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini has covered the State Department and traveled with the Secretary of State many times. Christina, thank you for being in studio with us. Can you talk about the significance of Blinken's trip and what he's really trying to do here?
What he's trying to do is calm tensions. Look, the U.S. is in this very precarious position of wanting to show support for Israel, wanting to condemn these horrific attacks, but at the same time trying to keep this conflict from spreading throughout the Middle East, because a conflict that involves Israel and Gaza or Israel and the Palestinians, it never just involves those two countries, right? It's such a hot button issue. It's such an emotional issue for so many countries, and it tends to divide the world into camps. And there's all these proxy powers that have roles in this, including Iran, including Lebanon, including all these different places. And the potential for this to spread and become a really consuming conflict for the region could be catastrophic. So that's one thing he's doing. He's also there to try to advocate for Americans who are in Israel, who could be detained in Gaza, and make sure those Americans are taken care of and hopefully brought home.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about those hostages, obviously very much on the minds of everyone here in the States. I know the State Department and the White House have been pretty quiet about how they're trying to get these hostages out. What do we know about it? What the role they're playing?
And that's really typical. Anytime you see a detained American, silence doesn't mean that there's inaction. It just means they don't want to talk about it because it's so fraught and so delicate. Look, they said, if you mentioned 25 Americans are confirmed dead. The NSC spokesperson said yesterday 17 are unaccounted for. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these individuals are dual citizens. They could have been living in Israel for decades, but given the close ties between the U.S. and Israel, a lot of people have both citizenship. 17 doesn't mean those people are all being held. It could be they're missing. It could be they can't contact them. It could be that they're unfortunately deceased. So first, they've got to figure out who is missing and where they are and the status of them. Now, sources I've spoken to both overseas and here tell us it is unlikely the U.S. will put boots on the ground, right? Any part of a kinetic hostage rescue in Gaza, the U.S. doesn't want to be seen as having a physical involvement in that conflict. So the actual rescue would likely be left to Israeli forces. But obviously, they want to be there as soon as those Americans, if there are any, get back, to make sure that they're processed, to make sure that they're safe, to get them medical treatment, mental help, whatever they need, and get them home. So it's a complicated process. It's a long process. And I think they just don't know. You know, the other role that Blinken is playing is to share intelligence and share with the Israelis what they're hearing and what they're seeing from their sources as to who might be detained and who they might need to go rescue.
That's interesting. You know, this region obviously has seen conflict for the past 75 years. This is nothing new. I think what is new is that you have a lot of people who have been highly invested for many years following this. You have other people who may understand some of it, and then you have a lot of American people who really are new to understanding what's going on here. Can you break down why this conflict is different in a region that has seen conflict for so long?
I mean, I can try.
Yeah, look, good luck to you, Christina.
In 30 seconds, right? As you mentioned, the other thing that's making this particular conflict really hard is the social media aspect of it. And because people are so passionate and people are divided into camps, for better or worse, you know, when emotion comes into things, it's very hard to see things objectively. And we see that even with world leaders, even with full populations. And like I mentioned, any conflict that involves these two countries doesn't just involve these two countries. I was talking to somebody recently, and they just started dating someone, and they're both on other sides of this issue, and they've been fighting all week. So imagine that on a larger geopolitical scale. The issue is, you know, the Israeli state was created out of what was a British colonial power. So that in itself was already controversial. They divided it. The original plan was to go to the brand new UN and divide it into these two states. But that was rejected by the Arab states around the region, because they said, look, you don't, in their words, they didn't feel like they had the right to do that. And Israel self-declared. And then there have been various conflicts over decades that have changed the borders of Israel, right? right after the foundation, there was the Arab states invaded. Israel pushed back and took more territory, including Jerusalem. The Palestinians who were living there were then pushed into this area, which is what Gaza is now, that then belonged to Egypt. There was then a war with Egypt where Israel took that back and then kind of occupied Gaza until about 2005 when the Israeli army pulled back and Gaza had an election. And much to the shock of the international community, voted Hamas to control the territory. And that's kind of been the situation ever since. They haven't called another election. And Israel has been blockading the territory since about 15 years now.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Thank you for that deep dive
Yeah.
and for your expertise in the State Department. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys. There's gonna be